Excuse me, you can't park that here. The voice came from behind designer sunglasses and a blowout that cost more than most people's car payments. Victoria Langford Chase stood on the marble steps of Whitfield Academy with her arms crossed and her chin tilted at the angle of a woman who'd spent her entire life being obeyed. The car in question was a 2009 Honda Accord. Gray. Dented fender. Check engine light on. A crack running across the windshield like a river on a map. It was parked in the circular drop-off lane of a school where the average vehicle was a Range Rover, and the cheapest thing in the parking lot was the gardener's truck. The woman driving it turned off the engine. It coughed twice before dying. She stepped out, mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a plain jacket and jeans that had been washed too many times. She didn't look like Whitfield Academy. She looked like the person Whitfield Academy hired to clean after the fundraiser. "I'm picking up my son," the woman said. "Pickup is in the south lot. This lane is for—" Victoria gestured at the line of black SUVs and German sedans behind her. "Parents." "I am a parent." "This lane is for parents with school stickers." Victoria pointed at the windshield. "I don't see a sticker." "It fell off. The windshield has a crack." "Then get it replaced. In the meantime, you need to move your vehicle. You're blocking the lane." 3 other mothers had gathered on the steps now. Coffee cups, activewear, the specific posture of women who'd married well and made it a full-time occupation. They watched the exchange the way audiences watch tennis, heads turning, waiting for the next volley. "I'll be 5 minutes," the woman said. "I'm just picking up—" "You'll be 0 minutes. Move the car." "My son is—" "Your son can wait in the office. Move the car." The woman looked at Victoria, at the mothers on the steps, at the school, the sprawling Georgian campus of Whitfield Academy, the most prestigious private school in the state. Tuition, $52,000 a year. Endowment, $180 million. The kind of place where the buildings had names, and the names had plaques, and the plaques had donors, and the donors had Range Rovers. She didn't move the car. "I'd like to speak with the headmaster," she said. Victoria laughed. One sharp sound. "The headmaster doesn't handle parking disputes. I'm the PTA president. I handle this." "You handle parking?" "I handle everything that affects this school's image. And right now, your car is affecting this school's image." The woman looked at the Honda, at the crack in the windshield, at the dented fender she'd never fixed because the money went to tuition instead. "My car is affecting the image," she repeated. "Let's be honest." Victoria stepped closer, lowered her voice, but not enough. The mothers on the steps could hear. The valet attendant could hear. The 2 security guards at the front gate could hear. This school has a standard. Parents who send their children here maintain a certain presentation. That's not snobbery. That's community. And when someone pulls up in a vehicle that looks like it was towed from a junkyard, it sends a message. "What message?" "That anyone can walk in. That standards don't matter. That this school is—" She paused, searching for a word that wouldn't sound as ugly as what she meant. She didn't find one. Accessible. The word landed the same way it always landed when people like Victoria used it, as a synonym for lesser. Accessible. Open. Available to people who didn't belong. "I'm calling security," Victoria said. She pulled out her phone. "Victoria," one of the mothers began. "No, this is exactly the kind of situation the security protocols exist for. Unregistered vehicle, no school sticker, unidentified person in the pickup lane." "I'm not unidentified. I'm Nadia Aylen. My son is Samuel Aylen. He's in the 7th grade. Mrs. Patterson is his homeroom teacher. His locker is 247. He had a math test today that he studied for until 11 p.m. last night. I know, because I sat with him and quizzed him on quadratic equations until we both wanted to cry. Victoria held the phone to her ear. Yes, this is Victoria Langford Chase, PTA president. I need security at the front entrance. There's an unauthorized vehicle and an individual who won't leave. I'm a parent. You're a disruption. Quick favor. If you've ever been treated like you don't belong somewhere because of what you drive, or what you wear, or what you look like, tap like and subscribe. Because the woman standing in that driveway was not who Victoria thought she was. And in approximately 4 minutes, Victoria Langford Chase was going to experience the most humiliating moment of her life, in front of every parent, every teacher, and every child watching from the windows of Whitfield Academy. The security guards arrived. 2 men. Professional, not aggressive. They'd been trained to handle situations with diplomacy, because Whitfield Academy's families included senators, CEOs, and at least one ambassador. And manhandling the wrong parent could trigger an international incident. Ma'am, we've been asked to help resolve a parking situation, the first guard said carefully. There's nothing to resolve. I'm picking up my son. Your vehicle isn't registered in our system. Do you have your school ID? It's in my other bag. I'll get it tomorrow. Ma'am, without a school ID or vehicle registration, we can't verify. Her son is Samuel Aylen, Victoria cut in. 7th grade. If that's even true, she can wait in the office, like everyone else who can't follow the rules. I've followed the rules for 3 years, Victoria. This is the first time anyone's questioned me. This is the first time you've parked in the front lane. Because the south lot is being repaved. There's a sign. It says to use the front lane. Victoria blinked. She hadn't seen the sign. She hadn't needed to. Her driver dropped her children off every morning and picked them up every afternoon in a black Escalade with tinted windows and a school sticker the size of a dinner plate. Regardless, Victoria said, recovering, the vehicle is inappropriate. Inappropriate. For the front of the school, yes. I'm sorry, but there it is. We have prospective families touring today. First impressions matter. And what impression does my car make? That this school lets anyone in. The words hung in the air like a blade. The mothers on the steps went quiet. The security guards shifted. A cluster of children had gathered at the glass doors of the entrance hall, watching through the windows. Among them, a boy, 12, dark-haired, holding his backpack straps with both hands and staring at his mother being interrogated on the driveway of his school. Samuel. He saw everything. The security guards, Victoria's finger pointing at the car, his mother, standing alone, being told she didn't belong. He pushed through the door, ran down the steps. Mom! Samuel, go back inside. What's happening? Why are there guards? It's nothing, baby. Go back. Mrs. Langford Chase called security on you? Victoria turned to Samuel. The PR smile appeared, the one she used for children when parents were watching. Sweetie, this is an adult conversation. You called security on my mom because of our car? Samuel. Nadia reached for him. Our car works fine. It gets us here every day. Who cares what it looks like? Samuel, this isn't... Everyone at school knows you bully people, Mrs. Langford Chase. You made Mrs. Kim cry at the bake sale. You got Mr. Torres's son uninvited from the field trip because his dad wore the wrong shoes to orientation. Everyone knows. The steps went silent. Victoria's face went from PR smile to something colder. The mothers looked at their coffee cups. The security guards looked at each other. "Young man," Victoria said, "you should learn to respect adults. You should learn to respect my mom." The glass doors of the entrance hall opened. Not the student doors, the main doors, the heavy oak ones that only opened for visitors, board meetings, and the headmaster. Dr. Henry Aldridge walked out. 63, silver hair, bow tie. He'd been headmaster of Whitfield Academy for 19 years. Before that, Princeton. Before that, Oxford. He had a doctorate in education, a gentle voice, and the quiet authority of a man who'd spent 4 decades in institutions that were older than most countries. He walked down the steps, slowly. His shoes clicked on the marble. Every head turned. Parents, guards, children, Victoria. Dr. Aldridge commanded a room by entering it. He commanded a driveway the same way. He stopped at the bottom of the steps, looked at the Honda, looked at Victoria, looked at Nadia. "Nadia," he said. One word. Her name. Spoken with familiarity, with warmth, with the particular tone of a man greeting someone he knew well and respected deeply. Victoria's expression flickered. "Henry," Nadia said, "I'm sorry about the scene." "Don't apologize." He turned to Victoria. "Mrs. Langford Chase, you called security?" "The vehicle wasn't registered. The vehicle belongs to a Whitfield parent, a 3-year parent, whose child is a Merit Scholarship student in our 7th grade." "Merit Scholarship or not, the parking protocol, Mrs. Langford Chase." Dr. Aldridge's voice didn't rise. It lowered. The way voices lower when what's being said is too important for volume. "Could I ask everyone to listen for a moment?" He turned to the driveway, to the parents on the steps, to the children at the windows, to the security guards and the valet attendant and the 3 teachers who'd come out to see what the commotion was about. "For the last 9 years," Dr. Aldridge said, "this school has received annual donations from an anonymous benefactor. These donations have funded the construction of the science building, the renovation of the library, the new athletic complex that opened last September, the Performing Arts Center, and the full endowment of 34 merit scholarships that currently support students from families who could not otherwise afford Whitfield tuition." Tap like if you can feel what's about to happen, because Dr. Aldridge isn't done. And Victoria Langford Chase is about to learn that the woman she just humiliated paid for the ground she's standing on. The driveway was silent. 40 people, parents, staff, students, listening. "The total value of these donations," Dr. Aldridge continued, "over 9 years, is $47 million. A murmur. $47 million. The number moved through the crowd like a wave. Every year, the board has asked the benefactor to reveal their identity. Every year, they've declined. They asked that the donations remain anonymous because, and I'm quoting from their letter to the board, "The purpose of giving is the giving itself. Attention changes the equation." He paused, looked at Nadia. "This morning, I received a phone call. The benefactor has authorized me to reveal their identity. Not because they want recognition, but because, and again, I'm quoting, my son just watched a woman call security on his mother for driving a car with a cracked windshield, and he deserves to know the truth about who his family is." Samuel looked at his mother. Nadia looked at the ground. "The anonymous benefactor who has funded $47 million in construction, scholarships, and programs at Whitfield Academy," Dr. Aldridge said, "is Nadia Aylen." He gestured at the woman in the plain jacket, standing beside a 2009 Honda Accord with a cracked windshield and a dented fender. "The woman you just called a disruption." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full, packed with the sound of 40 people recalculating everything they thought they knew about the woman they'd just watched being escorted off school property by security guards. Victoria's phone was still in her hand. The call to security was still on the screen. She looked at it the way people look at a weapon they've accidentally pointed at themselves. That's not possible," Victoria said. "She drives a Honda," Dr. Aldridge finished. "Yes. She also manages the Aylen Foundation, which oversees a private investment portfolio valued at approximately $2.3 billion. She drives the Honda because her late husband bought it for her, and she keeps it because sentiment is more valuable than appearance." 2.3 billion. The number hit the crowd like a detonation. The mothers on the steps looked at Nadia the way people look at the sun. Directly, then away, then back again, trying to reconcile what they were seeing with what they'd assumed. "The science building," Dr. Aldridge continued, "named Whitfield Science Center. Nadia funded it in 2017. The library renovation, the one with the reading garden your children use every day, Nadia, 2019. The athletic complex, the one your PTA took credit for fundraising, Mrs. Langford Chase, Nadia funded 80% of it. The remaining 20% was the PTA's contribution, which Nadia matched 3-1 without telling anyone." Victoria's face had gone white. Not embarrassed white, the deeper kind. The white of a woman whose entire social architecture was collapsing in real time. "The 34 merit scholarships," Dr. Aldridge said, "including the one that allows Samuel to attend this school. Each one fully funded for 6 years, middle and high school. Each one covering tuition, books, uniforms, technology, and a monthly stipend for the family. Nadia designed the program herself. She reviews every application personally. She's met every scholarship family, in their homes, not in this building, because she wanted to understand their lives before she changed them." A teacher, Mrs. Patterson, Samuel's homeroom teacher, was crying. She wasn't the only one. "Nadia has never attended a board gala, never sat on the PTA, never put her name on a building, never asked for a parking sticker, apparently." A flicker of a smile. "She drives her Honda to school, picks up her son, and goes home. That's all she's ever wanted from this community. To be Samuel's mother and to make sure this school existed for families like hers." He turned to Victoria. "You asked what impression her car makes, Mrs. Langford Chase. Let me tell you what impression it makes on me. It tells me that the most generous person in the history of this school values a car her husband gave her more than the opinion of people who judge human beings by their vehicles. It tells me that wealth, real wealth, doesn't announce itself. It works. Quietly. For 9 years. Without needing a sticker." Victoria's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I didn't know." "No, you didn't. Because you didn't ask. You saw a car and you made a decision. You saw a woman and you made a judgment. And you made both of them loudly, publicly, in front of her child." Dr. Aldridge looked at Samuel. The boy was holding his mother's hand. His eyes were dry, but his jaw was tight. The jaw of a 12-year-old processing something too large for 12. "Samuel," Dr. Aldridge said gently. Your mother is the reason this school exists in the form you know it. Every building you walk through, every scholarship student you sit beside, every book in the library, she made that possible. She did it anonymously because she believed the work mattered more than the credit. I hope you understand what kind of person that makes her. Samuel looked at his mother. Mom? Nadia crouched beside him, eye level. The way she always talked to him, not down, but across. I was going to tell you when you were older. $47 million? It's just money, Samuel. Your dad made it. I manage it. And what we do with it is what matters. You built the science building? The foundation built it. Mom, you built the science building. My science building. Your science building. Samuel looked at Victoria, then at the security guards, then at the mothers on the steps, who were suddenly very interested in their phone screens. She called you a disruption. People say things when they don't know things. She said our car was inappropriate. Our car is perfect. It starts on the second try. It's reliable. And your father bought it the week before you were born because he said a baby doesn't need a BMW. A baby needs a car that'll still be running when he's 16. That's right. I'm 12. 4 more years. The Honda will make it. If you thought the headmaster's announcement was the climax, you're wrong. Because Victoria Langford Chase was about to discover that the woman she'd just humiliated wasn't just the school's anonymous donor. She was also the woman holding her husband's career in her hands. And she didn't even know it yet. The crowd dispersed slowly, the way crowds disperse after a detonation, in stages, people peeling off in clusters, whispering, recalculating, texting spouses. The security guards retreated to the gate. The mothers on the steps found somewhere else to stand. Victoria didn't move. She stood on the marble steps, holding her phone and wearing the particular expression of a woman who'd just been publicly corrected by the headmaster of the school she considered her personal kingdom. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A text from her husband, Grant Chase, CEO of Chase Barrington Group, an engineering and construction firm that had spent 3 years positioning itself for its biggest contract ever. Call me. Urgent. Victoria walked to her car, the black Escalade, third in line, school sticker gleaming, and called him. Grant, what's wrong? Langford Meridian just moved the tender review up. It's Friday. 3 days. We're not ready. What do you mean you're not ready? The investment fund managing the project. They've requested a final presentation. Friday morning. If we don't deliver, we lose the bid. Which investment fund? The Aylen Foundation. Victoria's hand went cold on the phone. The what? The Aylen Foundation, private investment fund. They're managing the $40 million infrastructure contract for the Langford Meridian development. We've been courting them for 2 years. The final decision is theirs. Grant, what's the name of the person who runs the Aylen Foundation? Nadia Aylen. Some kind of recluse. Nobody's met her in person. She does everything through... Victoria, are you there? Victoria was looking through the windshield at the circular driveway where Nadia Aylen was helping her son into a 2009 Honda Accord with a cracked windshield. I've met her, Victoria whispered. What? How? Grant, I need to call you back. Victoria, the tender is Friday. I know. I'll call you back. She hung up, sat in the Escalade, watched Nadia's Honda pull out of the driveway, slowly, the engine coughing once, the brake lights flickering as it turned onto the main road and disappeared. $40 million. Her husband's company. The contract that would define Chase Barrington for the next decade. The deal they'd been chasing for 2 years, with dinners and presentations and golf rounds and every tool in the corporate charm arsenal. And the woman who would decide whether they got it was the woman Victoria had just called a disruption and tried to have removed by security. In front of 40 people. In front of her son. Victoria gripped the steering wheel. Her knuckles went white. The Escalade's leather interior suddenly felt like a very expensive coffin. She drove home, called Grant, told him everything. The silence on his end lasted 12 seconds. Victoria counted. "You called security on her," Grant said. His voice was the voice of a man watching a building collapse in slow motion and calculating which floors would take him with it. "I didn't know who she was." "You called the woman who controls our $40 million contract a disruption, in front of the entire school." "I didn't." "You said her car was inappropriate. You told security to remove her." "Victoria, I've spent 2 years building a relationship with the Aylen Foundation through layers of intermediaries. 2 years of carefully positioned presentations. And you just called the founder a junkyard and had her escorted off school property." "Grant, I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't cover $40 million. Sorry doesn't cover the 200 employees whose jobs depend on this contract. Sorry doesn't cover the fact that Nadia Aylen now has a very personal, very public reason to give that contract to literally anyone else." "Maybe she won't connect it. Maybe she doesn't know who I am." "You told her your full name. Victoria Langford Chase. Into a microphone, at a town council, no, at a PTA meeting. You introduced yourself as PTA president. Chase. Langford Chase. The woman runs a $2.3 billion investment fund, Victoria. You think she doesn't know who Chase Barrington is?" Victoria didn't answer. Because the answer was obvious, and the obvious was devastating. "What do I do?" she whispered. "I don't know. But I know what you don't do. You don't call her. You don't show up at her house. You don't send flowers or a note, or any of the things you do when you've offended someone at a country club. This isn't a social situation. This is business. And in business, the person you insulted doesn't owe you a second chance. But she might. She might give the contract to someone else because you couldn't treat a person with basic decency. And I'll have to look at 200 employees and explain why." The line went dead. Victoria sat in her kitchen. The kitchen that cost $180,000 to renovate. The kitchen with the imported marble and the Viking range and the wine fridge that held 60 bottles of wine she never drank, but kept because the designer said it completed the aesthetic. She looked at her phone, at the call log, at the number she'd dialed to summon security on a woman whose foundation controlled the single most important financial decision in her husband's career. And she understood. For the first time, with the particular clarity that only catastrophic miscalculation provides. That everything she'd built her identity on was a costume. The PTA title, the Escalade, the blowout, the authority she wielded like a credit card. Swipe it, and people moved. She'd swiped it on Nadia Aylen, and the machine had spit it back. Tap like if you've ever watched someone's entire world collapse because they treated a stranger like they were invisible. Because Victoria's worst day wasn't the driveway. It was Friday. The tender review happened as scheduled. Friday, 9 a.m. Chase Barrington's conference room. Grant Chase in his best suit. His CFO, his project director, his entire pitch team, 16 people who'd been working 18-hour days for a week. They presented. 40 minutes. The Langford Meridian Development, a $40 million infrastructure project that would anchor Chase Barrington's portfolio for a decade. The numbers were strong. The engineering was sound. The timeline was aggressive but achievable. The Aylen Foundation's review team sat across the table. 3 people. Professional. Neutral. They asked questions. Grant answered. His team supplemented. The exchange was smooth, the kind of corporate dialogue that feels productive but reveals nothing about which way the wind is blowing. At 9:47 a.m., the conference room door opened. Nadia Aylen walked in. She wore the same plain jacket, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked exactly like the woman on the school driveway, because she was exactly the woman on the school driveway. She didn't dress differently for boardrooms. She didn't dress differently for anyone. Grant stood. His face went through 3 phases in 2 seconds. Recognition, she's here. Calculation, she knows. And something that looked like surrender. Ms. Aylen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Chase. Your team is impressive. She sat at the head of the table. The position her review team had left empty. The position that said, I decide. I've reviewed the proposal, Nadia said. The engineering is excellent. The timeline is tight, but your track record supports it. The cost structure is competitive. Grant exhaled. Slightly. I do have one question. Of course. It's not about the proposal. The room temperature dropped. Mr. Chase, I run a foundation that manages $2.3 billion in assets. We fund schools, hospitals, infrastructure, community development. Every dollar we deploy represents a decision about who we trust with the outcomes that matter most to the people we serve. She looked at Grant, not at his suit or his slides or his handshake. At him. When I choose a partner for a $40 million project, I'm not just evaluating engineering. I'm evaluating character. The character of the firm. The character of its leadership. The character of the people connected to it. Grant's jaw tightened. This week, at my son's school, I was told that my car was inappropriate, that my presence was a disruption, that people like me, her words, lowered the school's image. Security was called. In front of my 12-year-old son. The room was ice. The woman who did this was your wife, Mr. Chase. Grant didn't speak. Couldn't speak. 16 employees sat behind him, watching their $40 million contract hang on a sentence. I want to be clear, Nadia said. I am not here to punish you for your wife's behavior. Your company's work stands on its own. Your engineers are excellent. Your proposal is strong. And the people in this room have worked very hard. She paused. But I need to understand something. The woman your wife tried to remove from that driveway, me, has spent 9 years funding the school your children attend. I've never asked for recognition. I've never used my money to demand respect. I show up in a Honda, pick up my son, and go home. And the reaction of the person closest to you, your partner, the mother of your children, was to call security because my car had a dent. She looked around the table. At the 16 people who hadn't done anything wrong, but whose lives were attached to the man who had married a woman who couldn't see past a windshield crack. I believe people reveal themselves in moments they don't know they're being watched. Your wife didn't know who I was. She wasn't performing. She was being herself. And herself decided that a woman in a Honda didn't deserve to stand in a driveway. Ms. Aylen, Grant said. His voice was controlled, but the edges were fraying. What Victoria did was wrong. Completely wrong. I've told her so. She knows. And I want to assure you that her behavior does not reflect, it reflects something, Mr. Chase. It may not reflect your company, but it reflects the environment you live in, the values your household operates on. And when I trust someone with $40 million of public infrastructure money, I think about who they go home to. The silence lasted 8 seconds. I'm not pulling the contract. Grant's shoulders dropped. 2 inches. The visible release of a man who'd been holding his entire company above his head. Your team earned this bid. The work is excellent. And I don't believe in collective punishment. Your employees didn't insult me in a school driveway. Thank you. I'm not finished. Nadia opened a folder. I'm adding a clause to the contract. A community impact requirement. 10% of project labor, $4 million worth, must be sourced from the workforce development programs my foundation funds. Training, apprenticeships, employment for people from backgrounds that look a lot like the woman your wife thought didn't belong. Grant looked at the clause, nodded slowly. And one more thing. This isn't in the contract. This is personal. Nadia looked at him directly. I would like your wife to spend one day, volunteering at the Aylen Foundation's after-school program. Not fundraising, not writing checks, working, with children whose parents drive cars worse than mine. I'd like her to see what she looks like from the other side of a driveway. I'll talk to her. Don't talk to her, Mr. Chase. Show her. There's a difference. Nadia stood, shook his hand, walked out. The conference room sat in silence for 30 seconds. Then Grant's CFO leaned over and whispered, We got the contract? We got the contract. With conditions. With conditions we should have had from the beginning. Grant sat down, loosened his tie, looked at the window where the city spread out below him. Buildings, roads, infrastructure, the physical evidence of contracts won and projects delivered and careers built. All of it almost lost because his wife couldn't look at a woman in a Honda and see a person instead of a problem. Victoria went to the after-school program, not because she wanted to, because Grant told her the contract required it and 200 jobs depended on it, and whatever she felt about being told what to do by a woman she'd tried to have removed by security, she could feel it quietly, for once. She arrived at the community center in her Escalade, parked it between a minivan with a missing hubcap and a truck with a bumper held on by baling wire. Got out, looked at the building, squat, cinder block, fluorescent lit, the kind of place that smelled like cafeteria food and floor cleaner, and the particular energy of children who had too much to say and not enough people to say it to. She walked in, was met by a woman named Teresa, the program director, 38, who'd been running the after-school program on Aylen Foundation funding for 6 years, and who had no idea that the woman standing in front of her was the PTA president who'd tried to have the founder removed from a school driveway. We need help with homework hour, Teresa said. 30 kids, mostly math and reading. Just sit with them. Be patient. I can do that. She sat with a girl named Maya, 8 years old, struggling with fractions. Maya's mother worked 2 jobs. Her father wasn't in the picture. She took the bus to the community center every day because there was nowhere else to go between school and 7 p.m. when her mother finished her shift at the hospital. "I don't understand why the bottom number matters," Maya said, staring at 3/4 like it was a foreign language. "The bottom number tells you how many pieces the whole thing is cut into," Victoria said. "Like a pizza. If you cut it into 4 slices, the bottom number is 4. "I don't like pizza." "What do you like?" "Mangoes." "Okay, imagine a mango cut into 4 pieces. You eat 3. That's 3/4 of the mango." Maya looked at the paper, then at Victoria, then at the paper. "Oh," she said. "Oh, that makes sense." "Yeah?" "Yeah, because I would definitely eat 3 pieces of mango." Victoria laughed. An actual laugh. Not the sharp, performed sound she used at PTA meetings, but the real kind. The kind that comes from a place you forgot existed. She stayed 3 hours, helped 9 kids, sat on plastic chairs at folding tables under fluorescent lights in a building that cost less than her kitchen renovation, doing work that felt more real than anything she'd done in the Escalade or the marble steps or the PTA boardroom. She drove home, sat in the driveway, didn't go in. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Langford Chase, this is Nadia. I heard you went to the community center today. Teresa says you were helpful and that a girl named Maya now understands fractions. That's worth more than anything I've ever donated. Thank you." Victoria stared at the text. She typed 4 responses, deleted all of them. They were too long, too apologetic, too much of the Victoria who used words to manage situations instead of actually saying things. She typed a 5th. "I'm sorry. Not for the contract, for the driveway, for what my son saw, for what your son saw, and for every time I've looked at someone and seen a car instead of a person." Send. 3 dots. Nadia typing. Accepted. Maya likes mangoes, by the way, in case you come back. I'm coming back. I was hoping you'd say that. Victoria put the phone down, looked at the Escalade in the driveway. $95,000. Leather. Tinted windows. School sticker the size of a dinner plate. She thought about the Honda, the crack in the windshield, the dented fender, the engine that started on the 2nd try because a man had bought it the week before his son was born and his wife had kept it running because the memory of him was worth more than any vehicle on any driveway. She thought about what Dr. Aldridge had said. Wealth, real wealth, doesn't announce itself. And she thought about Maya, 8 years old, eating imaginary mangoes, understanding fractions because someone sat beside her and didn't look at her shoes first. Victoria went inside, took off her coat, made dinner for her family without the caterer, burned the rice. Her daughter said, "Mom, this is terrible." And her son said, "I like it." And Grant looked at her across the table with an expression she hadn't seen in years. Surprise, maybe, or the beginning of respect, which was different from the admiration she'd spent her marriage performing for and had never once earned. "I'm going back to the community center," she said. "Every Tuesday." Because of the contract? Because of a girl who likes mangoes. Grant didn't understand. That was okay. Understanding, like fractions, sometimes required someone to sit beside you and explain it in terms you could digest. And in a kitchen that cost $180,000, a woman who'd spent her life measuring the world in stickers and vehicles, and the distance between marble steps and parking lots, ate burned rice with her family and felt, for the first time in longer than she could remember, that the meal was enough. Not because it was good, because she'd made it herself. And 3 miles away, in a house that didn't have imported marble or a Viking range or a wine fridge, Nadia Aylen sat at her kitchen table with her son, eating leftovers, helping him with quadratic equations, while a 2009 Honda Accord sat in the driveway with its cracked windshield, catching the last light of the evening. Samuel looked up from his homework. "Mom?" "Yeah?" "Is Mrs. Langford Chase going to get in trouble?" "She already has. The kind you can't buy your way out of." "What kind is that?" "The kind where you have to change." Samuel thought about it. "Is that the worst kind?" "No, baby. It's the best kind. It just doesn't feel like it at first." He went back to his homework. Nadia went back to her coffee. The Honda sat in the driveway. The crack in the windshield caught the streetlight and scattered it into small, sharp stars across the dashboard. The car was 14 years old. It started on the second try. It had a dent in the fender and a check engine light that never went off, and a windshield crack that grew half an inch every winter. And it was worth more than every Escalade on every marble driveway in the state. Because some things aren't measured by what they cost. They're measured by what they carry.